Hello, everyone. I see we already have a few people who have started joining into the stream, so I figured I would go ahead and get started. This is actually going to be my first stream like this, not actually playing a game, but just chatting. I wanted to ultimately do a stream once a week, just kind of discussing, I guess, different views in the horror community, going over different topics, discussing certain horror movies that I love, or, just planning something different each Monday for an hour, just to kind of discuss that's more horror-centric. So I won't be playing a game tonight, but I have earlier today started posting what tonight's stream is about, and it is about my first horror movie. I am sure you can kind of guess by everything going on what mine was. But before I get started on that, I wanted to talk about some of my viewers, fellow streamers, different people I communicate with, find out what their first horror movie was. So I'll kind of get started. Earlier today on Instagram and Twitter, I posted, hey everyone, let me know what your first horror movie was, how old were you, what do you remember about it. Of course, the first person I asked was my fiance. He's a fellow streamer. His stream or Twitch channel is Barry__bird33. I will put all this information in the chat here in a minute, because I have a few others that I want to, definitely put their information in there, because they're streamers that I really enjoy and, really believe in and feel like everyone should check them out. But of course I asked Barry first. He's my fiance. Why not? And his first horror movie, he doesn't exactly remember what it was, but I know for a fact which horror movie terrified him as a kid, because his mother has repeatedly brought it up. It's kind of a family joke, and I'll get to that in a minute because it actually ties in with my first real person who, my first real person who sent me an actual first horror movie that they saw. So one of my viewers, her name's Rachel, I asked her, what was your first horror movie? How old were you? And she said that her first horror movie was Child's Play, which I feel like for those of us in our 20s and, early 30s, I feel like mid-late 20s, early 30s, I feel like that's kind of a common first horror movie for a lot of them, because I would assume parents would see this horror movie that's like, it's not for kids, obviously, but it's kind of a classic horror movie or entry-level horror movie for a lot of people because it did have a doll, and it's one of those that, I grew up watching Child's Play. 4th of July, we watched, I believe it was the second one. It was the second or third one, the one where they're at, the military camp. I remember, every year for 4th of July, me and my cousins would watch that one. So that was, a common one. We'd watch that, then go shoot off fireworks, grill out, get in the pool, watch the city fireworks. And that was just a common, normal movie for us. And, looking back on it, I can't believe our parents let us watch that. But Rachel told me that was her first horror movie, and she was 5 years old. She was at a friend's house. The parents weren't paying attention, or, sometimes that just happens. They're kind of doing their own thing, thinking that kids are watching something else or, playing dolls or something. And she and her friend were watching Child's Play. She was 5 and her friend was 6. And this is especially hilarious to me because that is the first horror movie that Barry really remembers. This is a movie that he was terrified of Chucky, and that's kind of the common joke with, friends and family, is that he's terrified of it. All right, let me see. I want to make sure my stream is working. I was told that it might not be. Oh, no, it looks like it is. All right, never mind, false alarm. This was the first horror movie that really just terrified him. I mean, like I said, I feel like that's kind of normal for our generation, for the millennials. That's a normal horror movie to see for the first time. So it's funny to me because about this time last year, we went to a horror convention up in Kentucky called Scarefest, And one of the celebrities there was Alex Vincent, who played Andy in the original. I'm pretty sure he was in the first two. I know he came and popped in a few others. But Andy, Alex Vincent, he was there and he was doing photos with Chucky. So I kept making comments to Barry like, "Hey, let's go get a picture of you and Chucky. That'd be great to show your family." And he was like, "Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good." And then I just kind of forced him to, just grabbed him and went up to Alex and was like, "Hey, can we get a picture of you?" This guy was like terrified of Chucky as a kid. And we got a really great picture. I'll have to post that on Instagram sometime. But back to Rachel's story. She said that her mom was like lost her mind when she found out they'd been watching Child's Play. And she said that she and her friend were also convinced that Chucky from Child's Play and Chucky from Rugrats were one and the same. So I just think that's a funny story, and I can totally relate to that. I could see where at that age of like 4, 5, 6, you could think, oh, it's probably the same person. I know when I was a kid, I thought that my brother, Michael, like, I don't know why, but I associated his name with, like, Michael Myers. I was like, oh, that's weird. But a whole different thing. So a few other people I spoke with a few other Twitch streamers about their first horror movies. And, of course, I'm going to put their information in the chat here in a bit. And I'm also going to put their information in the description on YouTube, because what I'm going to do is take this video and obviously post it to YouTube. So I definitely want to highlight them and share their information. But a variety streamer I spoke with, his name is Roozzi, and that's spelled Roozzi. He's a variety streamer on Twitch, and he said that his first horror movie was The Island of Dr. Moreau when he was like 5 or 6. And I just feel like that is a random but interesting movie to have as like your first horror movie. I feel like that's not one I've heard before. You know, most people, it's like Freddy, Jason, Michael, Chucky, like those are the normal ones that come to mind, but I have never, ever heard someone state this as their first horror movie. But definitely go check him out. Like I said, I'm going to post his information. He's a fun one to watch, so definitely go check him out. Another streamer that I spoke with is I hope I'm saying this right, AliCairo. She is a streamer on here as well, and she's one that I definitely relate to and enjoy watching. She plays a variety of games, of course, but like myself, she loves horror games. So on that level, I definitely relate to her. She's one of the female streamers that I love watching when she plays horror games. She's played like Outlast, Alien. She's a newer streamer, but she's awesome. You know, definitely engages with her viewers. So I would highly recommend checking her out. But her first horror movie was Scream, and she said she was around 9 years old. Hold on. She said she was around 9 years old when she first saw it. Sorry guys, my phone is going off. I've had a couple people tell me that their Twitch app is acting up. So let's see. I hope y'all can see this. I hope it's not causing too many issues for you guys. Let's see. Like I said, there's no real structure to this stream tonight. It's literally just me kind of chatting, sharing y'all's experiences, sharing my own. And I'm trying to see from my phone if it's also acting up. Let's see. I think it's working. Okay, yeah, it's working. Sorry. So, back to what I was saying. So, Allie said that her first horror movie was Scream when she was around 9 years old. She said, oh, I've got a "you've been clear while I'm watching" from Barry__bird. Again, that is my fiance. Definitely check his channel out. He actually just got his mic and got his camera today, so he will be streaming more probably in the next week or so. He's awesome, and I would highly recommend checking him out. He's definitely a better gamer than myself, If you've watched my Alien streams the last couple nights, you know I get lost easily. He's great. All right, so the person who texted me said that they had to get out of the app and go back in. They're good now, so we'll continue. Thank you both for letting me know. But back to Allie for the third time. She said when she was 9, she just wanted to see something scary, and that was, you know, that first scene, the iconic scene of Drew Barrymore, you know what happens if you've seen it. She said it scared the absolute shit out of her, and she was instantly in love with horror movies after seeing that. That Drew Barrymore scene, I remember I was probably around the same age, maybe just a year or two younger when I first saw it, and, you know, I knew who Drew Barrymore was. She was in movies like E.T., there were all these movies around that time. She was very popular, and I remember my brother renting the movie, and he was like, we're going to watch Scream tonight, and we all piled in the living room, and we were just all shocked that she got killed right off the bat. Like, that was just so uncommon to have, like, the star person of the film, and if you've heard about the film itself, you know that it was kind of her idea to a degree. Like, she, you know, was supposed to be the main character, and it was brought up like, hey, what if we just flip this on its head and, like, kill me in the beginning? Like, that would be awesome. And they went with it, and now it's just an iconic opening scene in the movie. But Allie said that terrified her, but also as soon as she left that movie, like, she was hooked. Like, she loved horror movies, and I completely relate to that. I would highly recommend checking her out. I'm going to put her information in the chat, along with Dylan, or Roozzi. He also goes by Dylan. They're both great streamers on here. I would highly recommend checking them out, along with Barry. But what I was going to say about Scream, one additional thing. Scream holds a special place in my heart. It is a movie that, I mean, I grew up watching more classic horror movies, like from the 70s, 80s, because I was living in the early 90s, and all my siblings were 10 and 15 years older than me. My cousins were much older than me. I was the youngest, and my cousins and I, we would recreate horror movies. And when Scream came out, it was like this new, fresh breath of fresh air. And we loved recreating horror movies and filming them. So we had, like, my aunt's handy cam, and we completely recreated Scream multiple times. One time, my cousin was the one in the chair. One time, she was the killer. Like, we had ketchup as blood. Like, the whole 9 yards. Like, it was just ridiculously bad. But Scream really got us into filming bad horror movies when we were kids. And I think that, along with what I'll get to as my first horror movie, really just solidified my love for this genre. So another person who shared their first horror movie with me is Mike. So he said that his first horror movie that he was aware of, which I feel like this is normal, you know, sometimes you're so young when you see a horror movie, you don't really remember it. But the first one that he was aware of was Dawn of the Dead and The Hills Have Eyes. He saw both of these in 1980. It was a drive-in double feature, and when he told me this, I was like, that's almost like saying the Beatles is your first concert. Like, those are two, like, ultimate classics. You saw them at a double feature at the drive-in. Like, you can't get much better than that. So he was just saying this so casually, and I'm like, man, that's like saying the Beatles is your first concert. But I think that's amazing. I couldn't imagine that being my first horror movie, or my first real experience with horror cinema, because those are just, you know, if you are used to the horror genre, you know that those are two very beloved films. But I wanted to share Mike's first horror movie last, and those who kind of reached out to me or that I spoke with, because he actually made this shadow box, along with many other shadow boxes that we have collected. Barry and I actually met Mike last year at a convention, at that same convention in Kentucky where we met Alex Vincent. It's that convention called Scarefest, and he was a vendor there. He was selling so many amazing shadow boxes that he created, and we fell in love with his creations. Like, he doesn't do just horror. He does a lot of different recreations of like VHS covers, poster covers, scenes from movies. Like, I can't even just explain it. Like, I just would say definitely check out his Instagram. His Instagram handle is I don't want to mess it up. Curious Goods 666. I'm going to put it in the chat as well as the description. I feel like everyone should check out his channel because he has the coolest stuff. But I wanted to kind of show. So if you can see it, let's see. Hold on. If you can kind of see, I know there's kind of a glare. Maybe you can see it back here. That's better. So this is one for Halloween that he did. And on the side of each of them, he makes them look like old school, like VHS tapes. And I love it. It's such a cool effect, like a cool collectible. And he does smaller shadow boxes. He does larger shadow boxes. He does a lot of it, and he'll put lights in them. I'm going to slowly start showing some of the ones that we already have. And I would just, recommend in the meantime, definitely check him out. He is actually custom creating one for me right now. And I'm so excited for what he's creating. I can't wait to get it. I can't wait to show you all. I just know it's going to be awesome. Like, I really trust his creative process. Like, he makes awesome stuff. Like, that is nothing compared to everything. Like, it's just, there's so much, and the more you look into it, like, each one is better than the last. But I would highly recommend checking him out. Everything he makes is handmade, hand cut. It's all custom made to order. So, you're really getting something unique. But I'm mentioning him last because, as I said before, I'm sure you can tell what my first horror movie was. So, as you can tell, it is John Carpenter's Halloween 1978. Now, I first saw Halloween when I was, like 4 or 5 years old. As I said before, I was the youngest of all my cousins, and they were all anywhere from 3 to, I'd say, like 6, 7 years older than me. So I'm 4, a couple of them are about to be entering their preteen years, I guess you could say. So there's a variety of ages there. But I was the youngest of all my cousins, and my granny would sometimes keep all of us, and when we would drive her crazy or she had stuff she needed to get done, she would put Halloween on like it was a normal thing. Like, she would pile all the cousins into this rec room at her house, turn off the lights. She would, turn off the lights. She would shut the door and just have Halloween playing for all of us. I could see that being somewhat normal for 10-year-olds, but for a 4-year-old, she was just like, she won't remember. But I do, and that was my first horror movie, which I'm totally cool with. But she loved just shutting us in there, turning on Halloween. This wasn't like a one-time thing, mind you. That was like one movie she had on VHS, and I don't know why, but she chose that movie every time. And my cousins, the boy cousins, they were all boys, and then myself and one other female cousin. And all the boy cousins, every time at the beginning, they would do this and yell boobies. So I'm exposed to all this. But by the end of the movie, they would end up locking me, the youngest, a 4 or 5-year-old, in a closet. Like, during this movie, they would all just kind of put me in this closet, and they would say if I screamed or breathed, Michael would kill me. That's not normal. But I was the baby of the cousins, and they were like, we'll do whatever to her. So I was like the bullied one. I was the bullied one. But you would think, like, going through all that would be enough to kind of veer me away from horror movies. But no, it did the exact opposite. I'm not sure exactly why, but from here on, I was just a huge horror fan. Like, I loved watching horror movies. Halloween was normal for me. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But I'm the type, like, I would rather watch a horror movie than a rom-com. I mean, in a weird sense, my grandma doing that to me, Halloween broke me. and my granny was the culprit. Um, but Halloween, kind of like Scream, like it holds an even more special place in my heart. Like it's just one of those movies that I grew up watching. I was once describing how I felt about the movie to a coworker, and the words that came out of my mouth was, it's just a magical movie. And she looked at me very confused. But for me, this movie is almost like a home-cooked meal. Like, it hits the spot every time. I can watch it day or night when I'm cleaning. If I've had a bad day, I can put it on. Like, anytime I put the movie on, Barry's like, oh, you're watching Halloween again? So, it's the norm in our house. And when we were first dating, he actually bought me the Halloween box set. Like, I own, like, the digital versions and whatnot, and I'll watch them on Shudder if I'm on the go, anything like that. But he bought me, like, the physical copies, and he's bought me steel books, and he completely supports my love for the series. Sorry, I was just checking my phone. Or I guess I would say a bad habit. It's almost a bad habit at this point. But it's just the weirdest thing. I love this movie. It's a great movie. I know it's not perfect. I know that, they were filming this movie in California, and they're supposed to be, in the fall, and you see palm trees in the backgrounds of some shots. Like, it's not a perfect film, and they never tried to make it a perfect film. It was more just like a fun film, but at the same time, it's hit home for so many people, and it's just a classic. I mean, it, to this day, even though I love it, every time I watch it, there are some scenes that just, like, they get you. And it doesn't matter how many times you see it, like, it still, like, gives you goosebumps. Like, it's creepy and awesome. Like I said, it broke me. But this movie, it's if you watch documentaries on it, it's awesome to see everything that went into this, everything that kind of led to it, and everything after. Like, this series, like, it really kind of set the stage for a lot of horror movies that we all know and love today. And, I mean, without Halloween, would we even have John Carpenter's The Thing? Like, and it's so crazy because in Halloween, there's a nod to The Thing, and John Carpenter wasn't even doing that movie yet. Like, it's just like it told the future in a weird way. This movie has so many nods to, like, Psycho, for instance. I mean, the main character, Jamie Lee Curtis, her mother was the main character in Psycho, and they weren't even trying to get Jamie Lee Curtis for this movie. They were wanting, I can't remember which actress it was, but it was a different actress. It was someone else whose mother was famous. But they weren't even trying to get Jamie Lee Curtis. Deborah Hill, who was John Carpenter's, partner on this film, essentially. Like, she helped write it and everything, and was a big part of the crew. And technically, she was in the movie as well. But Deborah Hill actually told John Carpenter, like, hey, I think you should put Jamie Lee Curtis in this film. Like, her mother is Janet Leigh, and, like, I think that's, like, cool. Could we do that? And he was just kind of like, whatever. Like, he really didn't care one way or another. Like, he wanted this other actress, but once they actually had Jamie do the screen test, it was like, okay, this is our Laurie Strode. And it's just, I feel like everything happened the way it meant to make this film that's so beloved by so many. I mean, look, I didn't even realize until somebody mentioned this on Instagram the other day that Halloween, every single Halloween film has been in theaters, which is insane. Like, a lot of horror movies that have sequels, sometimes the sequels don't even make it to theaters. They become, like, video on demand, or, in this day and age, they may end up just on Netflix. But every single, like, Michael Myers has always been in theaters, which is insane considering how many films we have at this point. I mean, we have 78, we have Halloween 2, Season of the Witch, 4, 5, 6, H2O, Resurrection, both of Rob Zombies. Now we have Halloween 2018, and then we're getting 2 more. Like, to have 13 films for one character be in theaters, it's insane. And I know with COVID right now, like the next Halloween Kills, like we were hoping to get it in theaters this October. If you follow me or follow, anything in the horror community, you know that they did end up pushing it out to next October, which sucks. My personal hope was that they would still do it in theaters, but they would also release it in video on demand. But they're going to put a lot more time and effort into making this film even better than, they're saying it already is. And they also mentioned that they were going to, I guess, expand it with IMAX. I'm not sure how exactly, like, what all they're going to do. Like, I know at some IMAX theaters you have, like, the different, like, where you can smell things, like, you can have, like, water almost hitting you. Like, they have all those extra things that they can do with IMAX. And I'm wondering if they're going to go that route with this film, or if, I don't know how expansive they're going to be with the whole IMAX thing. I'm interested to see that. But at least we are getting it. It's just going to be a year, which sucks. But this movie just really kind of laid down the map for a lot of other films. And, I mean, it laid down the map for Jamie Lee Curtis's career. After this, she became, like, the ultimate scream queen. I mean, you have Prom Night, Terror Train, like, all these horror movies that she was in. And then she pretty much just kind of left horror films for a long time, or for a while, and went on to do other films that were, I guess, a little more serious or action. And then she decided to jump back into it and try and convince John to come back on for Halloween H2O. But it's interesting to think of, like, this film in 1978 that really, they didn't plan for it to be what it is. And to, like, look back on it and see what this has evolved into. It's just insane. And not just this film, like, there's so many other films that it's just crazy how much of a, market made in the pop culture community, or pop culture, not community, but pop culture. But I've watched so many documentaries on this, and, they say that the filming of this movie was like summer camp for them, that everyone did everything. Like, they couldn't get pumpkins, in the summer in California. You couldn't get leaves, like fall leaves, as easily. So they had bags of leaves that they would carry around for shooting each scene. And they would, scatter them everywhere for the scene. And then once it was done, everyone would pitch in, pick up the leaves, and get ready for the next scene. And when I say everyone, I mean, like, the actors, crew, everyone was pitching in. It was like everyone did every job. It wasn't like, oh, Jamie Lee Curtis is an actress, she's not doing that. Like, they all shared one trailer to get ready. They all did pretty much every job. It was just like all of John Carpenter and Deborah Hill's friends on set, hanging out, helping make this movie that they really didn't think was going to be anything. And like, Jamie Lee Curtis has referred to it almost like summer camp. Like, it's interesting to watch documentaries on how it came to be. And as far as I've heard, the only person that really wasn't one to pitch in and help, and not because he probably wouldn't, but, like, he was more of their high profile actor, is Donald Pleasance. And this movie, it was an indie film, and they had actors that nobody knew who they were pretty much in this, and Donald Pleasance was like the character. Like, he was the main name that people might know in this, or would know. But this movie, even in the 70s, had a budget of like a little over $300,000, and most of that was used on the filming equipment, the production side of it, the special camera for that very first scene where it's all just one shot, and then Donald Pleasance. Like, their budget was used on an actor and, the filming side of it. So obviously he's not going to be out there cleaning and helping do everything. He's not going to be the one filming, and he was only there for like a couple days. He shot his scenes. He wasn't even there the whole time. But it's interesting because this movie was the highest selling indie horror film for, I believe, like 2 or 3 decades, until the Blair Witch Project. That knocked it off its spot. But it was like the reigning champ in that for a long time. Like this movie, it had a budget of like over 300,000, and like to date it's made like 60 to 70 million. Like that's just insane. So this was my first horror movie, and I know it was a first horror movie for a lot of people, and it's just, I can't even explain why it's probably so beloved. It's just, it is what it is. But I loved hearing everyone else's first horror movies too. I mean, I feel like Child's Play, Scream, like those are movies, if I hadn't been trapped in a room with my cousins, those probably, oh yeah, like it's crazy how much went into this movie. But Child's Play, Scream, like those movies, those probably would have been the movies that would have been my first horror movie. But I am glad it was Halloween. I don't think I would have loved it as much as I do if I hadn't seen it at such a young age. So, our Binion 92 in my chat, she and I are actually in a committee at work. We work together, and we have a fun committee that we kind of run to plan fun events. Yeah, we could definitely make a fact sheet for October. That'd be interesting. I'd probably be one of the few that would know the answers. But yeah, it's really interesting what all went into this. I mean, the guy who plays Michael Myers, his name is Nick Castle. And I mean, technically in the first film, I think they had like 7 or 8 people play Michael Myers. Like you have the young kid, and then Nick Castle, and then Tony Moran, who was the face of him when he takes the mask off, or gets his mask off at the end. And then like Deborah Hill, Tommy Lee Wallace, who created the mask, like all of them, they all pitched in at some point and were Michael Myers, which is just funny. But Donald Pleasance was only there for a few days, but they pretty much had him to help give street cred. But they actually didn't even want Donald Pleasance for this film. They wanted Christopher Lee. Like that is who, like, John Carpenter was pushing for Christopher Lee, and Christopher Lee was such a high profile actor. He's like, I don't have time for this stupid low budget indie film. Like, I'm not doing this. This is like, no. He was too good for it. I mean, at that time, can you blame him? But at this day and time, Christopher Lee now states that that's the one project he regrets not doing. But at the same time, I couldn't imagine anyone else play Dr. Loomis like Donald Pleasance did. Like, he made that character. And I will forever love the line in the movie where you have all the little kids who are picking on Tommy Wallace earlier in the movie. They're all going up to the haunted Myers house, and that's kind of like, I guess, a little thing in their town where they all think that this house is haunted. So on Halloween, the kids are going, trying to dare each other to go inside, knock on the door, you know, normal small town stuff. And Lonnie is one of the kids' names. The other kids are like, Lonnie, go up there, go up there. And he goes up there, and then Dr. Loomis is behind the bushes, and he's like, Lonnie, get your ass away from there. And then he's like laughing at himself, scaring this kid, like this poor kid. And it's just, he didn't break character, but it's almost like another facet to his character, who is just so tense and terrified and just wanting to lock this horrible, murderous person, like wants to lock him away and not let the world ever see him. And then it's just like this random moment where he's like picking on this kid, scaring him. And then in Halloween 2018, the if you've seen it, the kid that is dating Laurie's granddaughter is the son of that kid, Lonnie. Like, they mentioned Lonnie Anderson in the movie. So it's funny how 2018 tied in and really honored the original movie in so many ways. And I've heard that this new one, Halloween Kills, you're gonna have Kyle Richards, you know, who played Lindsay. Did I say Tommy Wallace earlier? It's not Tommy Wallace, because it's Lindsay Wallace. Lindsay, she's going to be in it. Like, they're bringing a lot of characters from the original back, and I'm really excited to see that. Because, I mean, they did bring Nick Castle, the original Michael Myers, back for the 2018 one, but he was only in a piece of it, and it was more just to kind of pass off the mask or pass off the torch to the new Michael Myers, James Jude Courtney. And I've heard that Nick Castle's even going to be in this new one, so did he really pass down the torch? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point. Nick Castle's very beloved in the horror community as well. And I'm really sad that COVID is going on, because Barry and I are getting married on Halloween this year. And we were talking about taking our honeymoon the week before, or not really a honeymoon, but doing like a trip before we get married, to Kentucky for this year's Scarefest, because they were going to have a good portion of the original Halloween cast there for the convention. And unfortunately, we're not going to go, but maybe next year they'll have some of them there and we can meet them then. I definitely would love to meet the cast of Halloween. Like, I've met a lot of the cast of, like, Sleepaway Camp, obviously. Sleepaway Camp's an easy one to meet. Felissa Rose is at, like, every convention. And she's one of the nicest people at every convention. Usually you'll have Kane Hodder, Jason. He's at all of them. You have, like, the same people at a lot of these conventions. And I don't say that in a negative way. But this year's Scarefest I was so excited for, because Tony Todd was going to be there. Candyman. Like, you're going to have a lot of the original cast of Candyman there. Halloween. Hellraiser. Gosh, like, this year's lineup was going to be amazing. And it's so sad to see that not really happen. I'm sure they're going to have it in some way, shape, or form. I know they've talked about doing a virtual convention, but it's just not the same. But hopefully next year they can more than make up for it, and we can have a really good lineup, and Barry and I can do that for our 1-year anniversary. We'll see. But Halloween is just a movie that I can't even say enough times. It's, like, weirdly enough, home for me. It's a great movie. And, you know, one funny thing about it is this one thing that's always kind of, I don't want to say it's bothered me, but Halloween H2O ended up being made by Miramax, you know, like the Weinsteins and all that. They also did, or Miramax. They also had Dimension Films. It was Dimension Films, that's who it was. Dimension Films made, and Miramax made, the Scream movies. And if you remember, in the very first Scream movie, they reference Halloween. Randy's telling the rules of horror movies, you know, you don't have sex, no drinking, no drugs, never say I'll be back. Like, these are things that will get you killed in the movie, and that only the virgin is the final girl. So this is in the first movie. Well, in the second movie, which is a continuation of the same story, they have, or not the second movie, Lord. So that was the first movie. In Halloween H2O, they're playing Scream. So it's like, okay, so if they're watching Scream, then the events of the original Halloween movie is in this, and, like, this just boggles my mind every time I think about it. I can't get into it too much. It doesn't bother me. I think it's more just supposed to be a fun nod, but if you really think about it, like, Halloween H2O, they're watching a movie that references the original movie, which is supposed to be their real world. It's just weird to me, but it is what it is. I know that they didn't, like, it's not John Carpenter's idea. I mean, I don't know if y'all realize this, but John Carpenter really didn't want to make anything past Halloween 2. Like, the second Halloween movie, he really wasn't in for. The production companies, I'm pretty sure it was Mustafa who pushed this. I could be wrong. I don't want to say that and be wrong, but they were pushing him to make a second one, like, right away. They wanted more gore, more bodies. They wanted to make more money. And he sat down with, like, a pack of beer and just wrote out whatever came to his mind and just let it be. And they wanted it to be tied to the first one. He didn't want it to be tied to the first one from, you know, what I've heard. But they felt like there should be some connection with Laurie and Michael. And that's when you get the whole brother-sister thing, which they later negate in other, 2018. There's a lot of timeline errors once you get on. Even though I love all the movies, there are timeline issues that everybody knows, and we just don't acknowledge it. If you're a fan of Halloween, you may not be a fan of it, but you also don't acknowledge it because we all know it is what it is. So you've got, like, 3 or 4 different timelines in the same series. Whatever. And then, Halloween Season of the Witch, they wanted Halloween 2 to basically end the Michael Myers story. They wanted Halloween 1, or 1978, Halloween 2, and for it to be done. And then they wanted to do Halloween 3 to start, like, a whole new branch off Halloween, but not be related. They wanted to start, like, an anthology, almost. And it failed miserably. It's not the best movie. It's not the worst. I know it has its own, following. I totally get it. But then the fourth movie, they went back. And then now Jamie Lee Curtis has a daughter, and she's dead, and there's a lot there. But even as crazy as all the movies get after the first one, there's just something that brings people back to the theaters for every movie. Like, Halloween movies do well, and I think a lot of it has to do with the unsettling nature of Michael Myers. I mean, traditionally, he doesn't speak. He walks, and he's the shape. Like, he just looks creepy. But I know I've kind of went on a rant about my favorite horror movie, and I've kind of been all over the place. It's one of those things that I could talk about it all day. But I do thank my grandmother for having my cousins torture me as a kid, because this is a movie that I do love. And I'm glad that, when it came out, it got trashed in theaters. Like, it got bad reviews. When it first came out, it was getting scathing reviews. It was just like one after the other. And then I think one reviewer, in Seattle, somewhere more on the West Coast, like the East Coast, I'm pretty sure it was the East Coast, they were all just like left and right giving it bad ratings. But then I'm pretty sure it was Seattle. I could be wrong. But a reviewer out there, said something a little bit more favorable about it. And then Roger Ebert, who is like a very acclaimed reviewer of movies, TV show, films, whatever, or was. Roger Ebert gave it this like amazing review, and once he came out with his review, everyone went and saw it and loved it. So it's like you had all these people who went and saw it, everyone, like all these people reviewing the film, hating it, trashing it, saying it was the worst film ever, it was just smut, it was awful, and then you have Roger Ebert come out and say it's like this great movie, and then everyone rushes to see it, loves it. And if you go on YouTube, you can find videos of like audience reactions from the original showings, and you hear people screaming and whatnot. No, that's not my reaction, but it's awesome. And to see what this series, like what one little cheap movie from the 70s turned into, it's just cool to see everything that it led to. Still in theaters, movies still coming out left and right, very beloved. Heck, Dead by Daylight has a whole, oh gosh, what is the word? Like, they have Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. Every quarter they come out with a new killer, new map, and they have where you can play Michael or be a survivor as Laurie, and they even have the Haddonfield map. So it's crazy. It's in video games. It's everywhere. And especially at Halloween time, you have a whole week, and sometimes like they'll play a new Halloween movie every night on AMC. They'll have a whole day of Halloween. Like, it's funny. And one other fact about Halloween is that before that movie, there had never, ever been a movie with the name Halloween in it. This was originally supposed to be called something along the lines of like the Babysitter Murders or the Babysitter Killer, something along those lines. And it was suggested, like, I feel like we should do a movie about this, like, shape of a character, this masked person who goes around and kills babysitters. Because that's in the 70s when, you have a lot of people, like, that was very common to have babysitters. Parents go out, like, even more common than it is now. Like, every teenager was a babysitter. It wasn't like you could go get a job at Papa John's or, I don't know, American Eagle. Like, those are more, I guess, common teenage jobs now. But then it was like, okay, if you want to make money, you're a babysitter. That was a common thing. So the whole point of the movie was supposed to be like, let's put fear into like this job of like the babysitter, and this masked person can just go kill them. Like, it wasn't supposed to be serious. It was just supposed to be kind of a play on the times. And one of the guys who was a part of, I believe, the production company was like, hey, what if we make it at Halloween? And then they ended up naming it Halloween. And when they had decided to name it Halloween, that's when they started finding out that no other movie had ever been named Halloween or had Halloween in it, which is just bizarre. Because I'm pretty sure at that point, like, they had other movies, like, with other holidays in them. I mean, they had to have. But it's just crazy that, you know, we have something so iconic in this that came from all that. But I loved hearing everybody's first horror movies. Everyone who reached out, like, I really appreciate it. Like I said, I'm going to plug everybody's information. Oh. It was having me approve my own chat rules. But I'm going to go ahead and put, even though he's already chatted in here. Oh, goodness. I said the wrong name for him. He's not Barry Bird 33. He's Barry Bird. So this is my fiance. Definitely go check out his page. I have Roozzi. He's on Twitch. They both are. AliCairo. She's awesome. Definitely check her out. Make sure I'm typing it correctly. And then Mike, who's from Curious Goods 666, who sells all the shadow boxes and everything, like custom ordered. Like, I'm telling you, like, here, I wonder if I can pull. I'll just put his Instagram in here. I don't think I could pull it up on here. Instagram. Definitely go check. I would highly recommend all four of those people. We got 3 Twitch streamers, and I put Mike's Instagram for his page, Curious Goods. I'll slowly start showing a lot of the stuff that we've gotten from him. You know, I have a lot of streamers that I follow on here. I have a lot of creators that I've met at conventions, different vendors, and I'll collect one thing from the convention, and then I just keep up with them. I may order stuff down the line, and if you've, like, I would highly recommend going to a convention, especially like a horror convention. Like, you see some of the most creative stuff there. On my Instagram, I posted some artwork the other day by Rosalie's art gallery. I tagged him in it. I met Johnny at a Walker Stalker convention years ago, and he does a lot of his artwork with like colored pens and pencils, and so freaking talented and very affordable. Like, I've bought a lot of his work over the years. He's someone that I keep up with. Mike, I mean, we just met him a year ago, but Barry and I, like, we instantly fell in love with his work. We were like, I remember when we were waiting by his booth, we kind of just walked past it and then like backed up and we're like, what is this? And he hadn't gotten there yet and started opening it, because this was like right when the convention started on, I think, Saturday or Sunday morning. Like, it was like that morning, and he wasn't there yet, and we just kept stalking his booth. Like, we were walking by, we saw a few things we wanted to be the first person in there. Like, we were ready to jump in the second he was unlocking everything, and we were so worried we were gonna miss out. We were like, this is the coolest booth we've seen here, we want to buy everything. And we got a lot of really cool stuff from like the Evil Dead, Sleepaway Camp, and we bought a lot of shadow boxes there that we ended up taking to get signed by different celebs that were there. But I would highly recommend Mike. Easy guy to work with. Like I said, custom ordered. Like, I can't wait to show you what he's creating for me right now. Like, it's going to be awesome. But I appreciate everyone who came to my stream tonight. I think what I'm going to start doing, you know, I love feedback. So If there's anything you like, don't like, would want to see on Monday nights, let me know. But Saturday and Sundays, I will be gaming. On Monday nights, I'll be streaming for about an hour. Just, like I called it, it's a chill horror chat. We're just going to hang out, talk about whatever the topic is of the night. I've thought about, I don't know if I'd cover like true crime. I love hearing true crime. That sounds awful, but true crime can be very interesting. And hearing like the psychology of like what these people have done. And sometimes it's a learning lesson. Like there are so many cases that have been unsolved. Like if you've watched Unsolved Mysteries, especially the Netflix revival, like I've been thinking about that for over a week now. Like me and one of my coworkers were talking about it today, like 3 cases in that, I think they have 6 episodes, but 3 cases that were just, really on our minds, and one especially, like gosh, if you watch the one about the House of Horrors, I'm pretty sure that's what it was called, the House of Horrors in, is it France? Germany? I can't remember the exact location, but I'm pretty sure the entire episode they're speaking German. Oh my gosh, that episode just, it's shocking. And to know how it ends and the lack of resolution, because it is Unsolved Mysteries, and that is my one problem with that show. I loved watching Unsolved Mysteries as a kid, and then now the revival, every episode I'm like, Sam, I just started watching it today. Oh gosh, you are in for a ride. But the very last case, that one gets me too. You'll enjoy it, Rachel. But I'm telling you, like, as every episode starts, like, as I get closer to the end, I'm like, oh my gosh, who did it? Like, I wonder what the resolution is. And then it hits me. It's Unsolved Mysteries. There is no resolution. Like, these are unsolved. That's the whole point of the show. And then I'm left heartbroken and just reeling on it for a week. So unsolved cases really, it really sucks, and especially if you see cases mishandled, oh, that sucks even more. And there are so many cases that have really affected me, really had me thinking, and, to me, that's horror. Like, that is something that I could, to a degree, see myself talking about on a Monday, or I may not do it. Maybe one Monday I could just read, like, scary stories from Reddit. There is a podcast I love called Let's Not Meet, True Horror podcast. Rachel and I both love this. I actually got her and another one of our coworkers into it. But Let's Not Meet is one of the creepiest podcasts. He goes on and reads Reddit stories, or he has people who follow him send their stories, and the whole premise is sharing their stories, like creepy encounters, people who stalk them. Like, I can't even get into it. They're just a variety of stories that he tells, but it's like real encounters. And the end of each story is, for instance, creepy lady at the Walmart, let's not meet again. Like, that's the whole point of it. And, that's a whole thread on Reddit, let's not meet. And I'd love to read some of those and react, like maybe on a Monday. To me, that's horrifying. So that could be something to talk about. But Rachel, yes. But I appreciate everyone stopping by for tonight's chill horror chat. Next Monday, I don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but I'm sure it'll be something fun, horrifying, and we will see. But like I said, everyone go follow those that I put in the chat. Go check them out. People I highly recommend. I don't support or share people that I don't feel are worth. I don't want to say worth. That's awful. I share those that I enjoy. Share those that I respect, love. I share those that have put out something creative that I feel is worth acknowledgement. So, of course, I'm somewhat... of course, I'm going to support Barry, but once he starts streaming, I know it's going to be awesome. He's hilarious. He's a great gamer, so I know it's going to be really good. And who knows, he may have our dog Bodhi pop in from time to time. Who knows? We'll see. But that is all for tonight. I appreciate you all stopping by, and I will see you Saturday. Have a good one. Be safe.